And we will go on to the next speaker, which is Ulf Andersson. He is the Vice President of the National NGO Swedish Space Society and CEO of the consultancy Swedish Future Scanning, scanning the world for good technology. Ulf, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
And can you see the screen?
And we see the screen.
So this picture is one that I use to show people when doing presentations to the general public. I would say that this vision of a future moon habitat might irritate people concerned about radiation issues, but you can imagine a 10-meter layer of crystal clear water stopping radiation. And these kind of wishes we all sort of work for. But in order to make this a real thing, the basic two things that are necessary. We need to have resources. And in that case, robotic mining, of course, is a key technology. But we also need to use the resources we have efficiently. And that means recycling them. And if you say recycle them, it's this kind of a much more modern expression of creating a circular economy, which is a theme, a platform that could be used both when it comes to space development and when it comes to sustainable development on Earth. And my talk is more about organization and cooperation than technology itself. But we need to have different ways of looking at systems. Why do we need smart systems, new technologies? Of course, it's to have access to resources and also to make efficient use of these resources. One example of this happening on Earth nowadays is many modern cities, like some new built areas of the city of Stockholm in Sweden, actually has planned and used technology and physical planning to make circular circuits of recycling both energy, water, and materials. And if you look at things that we do for our space habitats, you can see the similarities, but of course on a much smaller scale. But we don't need only technology or new technology, we also need smart, what I would call smart system thinkings when we do build habitats and cities on the moon. We need to connect systems that have some sort of resource flow, like waste heat, wastewater, organic waste, or whatever, to each other. For instance, using waste heat from residential buildings to greenhouses. We could think of using multiple purposes for all the areas and volumes in the built environment. Using, for instance, roofs of buildings, also inside, let's say, a lava tube or whatever, for different purposes. We should also utilize all resources and what's called waste streams. Take wastewater. We started reusing the organics that actually is present in wastewater. But wastewater is heated, and we should, of course, recover the heat. And in the long run, the water itself. And we need to combine technical and biological solutions. We heard very inspiring presentations today on how to use biological system for basically, let's say, technical purposes. Now I will talk something about technology that comes from space to Earth. And we should use that to make people understand that space development has lots of benefits, not only for the space community itself and space development, but also for Earth. One example is the Swedish company Orbital Systems that has taken a filter originally from the International Space Station, a small aluminum tube, this size like a soda can, that contains the nanoceram, and also using UV light to recycle water in a shower where you are standing up, like the picture here. So the water is recycled, purified back actually to drinking water quality. And you save 90% of the water, but you also save 80% of the energy, because when you have a shower, the water is heated, at least in the Nordic countries. Another Swedish example, also originating from the ISS, is you can't open a window when you want fresh air on the ISS. Ventilation solutions on the ISS has been adopted to houses, multi-family houses, and making it into very intelligent ventilation systems. That also has the possibility to separate the carbon dioxide that we all produce when living, to greenhouses, for instance, on top of the roof or elsewhere. And of course, you know that the name CELR is to honor the memory of the astronaut Sally Ride. We mustn't forget that space gives us lots of benefits. Satellites is an essential part of the modern world. Satellite-based farming makes farming much more efficient and giving much greater harvests, just because you can optimize, for instance, fertilizer use or how you actually treat the crops. We need energy to power all these circular systems. For instance, small-scale nuclear power, or in a bigger perspective, sooner or later, we will have space-based solar power, where large satellites collect sunlight and transfer energy down to Earth in directed microwaves. And now lots of countries are working with this, also ESA. And you can direct the power at many different places, just change the angle of the satellite a little. Now I'm looking about technology from Earth to space or to the moon. There are lots of smart solutions on Earth that could, or rather should, be applied to moon bases and in a longer perspective to cities on the moon. One such thing is aquaponics, as Niklas already mentioned. This is an example. Aquaponics is where you combine growing fish in tanks and growing vegetables in a greenhouse. And the water from the fish tanks containing fish feces, fish poo, and the rest of their food, transported into an inert media where bacteria breaks down these things and give it like nutrients for plants. And here you see a picture of actually growing bananas in a system that is in Stockholm on 59 degrees north. These bananas grow as fast as, let's say, the banana plantations in the Canary Islands. So kind of intriguing thing that could be used more also outside Earth. Another thing that we can use, when speaking about purifying wastewater, in Singapore, they are doing that already since many years. New Water is a brand that the public utilities wastewater company in Singapore has used, and purifying wastewater through microfiltration and osmosis, etc., to get wastewater back to drinking water quality. And they share these bottles freely to tourists and locals in order to counteract the yuck factor, because very few people say hurrah when they drink treated wastewater. But we all do it in practice, but we have nature purifying the wastewater. It is done more in an industrial process. That's one thing that we certainly would need on the moon. Another thing that we would need is to have much more urban indoor vegetation, not only for things to put in your mouth to eat, but also to have for other functions, for temperature control, for psychological benefits, for recycling of carbon dioxide, etc. Here's a picture from the Changi Airport in Singapore, one of the best examples in the world. And of course, there are lots of technologies that are being developed today. Here in an overview of technology for desalination of ocean water, all technical chemical systems. We need to, of course, to purify water on the moon also, even if we get access to ice on the lunar poles. Certainly we would need to treat that water and purify it. And all these technical chemical processes give a knowledge basis for doing that also outside Earth. And one of the big things I think with develop a moon colony is that it drives innovation. And the moon itself is a completely different environment. And it will certainly drive new solutions and new innovations, which you haven't seen actually here. I mean, for instance, when you treat ores or beneficiations or making ore to metals, in Earth, you often use tremendous amounts of water. I think that it's out of the question on the moon. We need new methods of transferring ore to metals on the moon. And we need new ways and new technologies to do that. But certainly we have to see that the moon is a technology driver. Another thing is that the moon is dusty. I mean, I think we have said the word regolith about 572 times these 2 days. And you can, if you look closely at the picture, you can see that the legs on the spacesuit is quite dusty. And that is a health problem. So we need methods of taking care of dust or regulate control on the moon. And of course, that will give methods of doing the same thing on Earth. On the moon, it's a pure necessity. On Earth, we should do it, but we don't always have the good technologies to actually do it. Now, the challenges on the moon, the extreme temperature changes, of course, that could and should lead to the development of new techniques to manage very, very big temperature swings or new energy technologies. We have talked lots about having habitats in lava tunnels and other places underground. But we can use underground building also on Earth much, much more. And I think the good underground engineers in the next generation will be working on the moon rather than Earth. But we can also learn more of that for Earth. And indoor air quality is essential. Big problem in many places and many contexts on the Earth. But on the moon, it will be an eternal problem. So, my conclusion here is there's a lot of possible cooperation between people working with life support in the space community and people working with circular economy on Earth. And basically, they are doing the same thing. And I would like to see much more communication of the similarity of both challenges and opportunities to have a good circular economy on Earth and the moon. We need to create information resources on what technologies and methods and system solutions that actually are existing on the Earth. And I would say that it's more important for space people to learn from, let's say, the green developers on Earth than vice versa, because there are so many more. And my third suggestion that we can use analog moon habitats, such as the things that Niklas is building in Sweden, as demo sites and test sites for what we need to have on the moon: hyperlocal food production, indoor green and recycling all the resources, like the buildings that NASA actually have on their campuses, demonstrating new technologies. Of course, all the Moon and Mars analogs, all science centers celebrating space all over the world should also include practical demonstrations of circular systems and technologies. And why? Because I would say there are around 2,000 developers working with life support all over the world for the moon. But there are at least 2 million people working at the same thing for the circular economy on this planet. And that gives a good ground for cooperation. Thank you. So, Niklas, did I keep the time?
Yeah, you kept the time. Well, you shortened it actually. And we don't have any questions. Yeah, no, there come a couple of questions here. Good. Marufa, I'll let you start because you have good questions.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great presentation. I think I typed the question that was in my mind at the time. Yeah, how do you see the future of moon industry among all these technologies and countries?
That's a very general question. I mean, the moon industry will actually mostly, I would say, in the short run, the moon industry will be for utilizing resources that are existing on the moon. That is water, minerals, and stuff that could be made from regolith and things. That would be the basic of the moon industries. But what I'm talking about is actually the technologies and systems we are making for making decent habitations for humans on the moon, because that is also a big technology area that I am quite certain that we can learn a lot of on Earth that will be developed on and for the moon. Like, for instance, solar cells. Solar cells were actually developed first in space for satellites. Now it's a common technology. But if the space community or NASA hadn't taken the development cost, I don't think we would have cheap solar cells nowadays today. Did that answer your question, Marufa?
I mean, the last question to summarize, what technology you would invest? Like, how do we decide where to invest our time?
I think if I would invest, I would invest in water technology or water purification technologies or desalination technologies. Because we talk a lot nowadays about climate change, but water will be the next big issue on Earth. There is a lack of water in many places now that will only get worse. And on the moon, you need to recycle all the water that you have acquired as ice. But I think water purification and water recycling are key technologies that are profitable everywhere.
Thank you. And Frida Tobas, also a question.
Isn't the International Space Station using something similar to new water?
Yeah, that's right. In fact, the example I showed you about the shower system made by Orbital Systems was used for water purification on the ISS. And the ISS also has a system called water recovery system, where you, in principle, could, let's say, put urine in one part and taking out drinkable water in the other part. Well, it doesn't take place instantly. So there are lots of good things that could be learned from the ISS when it comes to recycling. On the other hand, it's kind of strange on the ISS when you have your clothes and haven't used the same shirt or t-shirt for, let's say, a week. There is no washing machine, no possibility to wash clothes. You just throw it away. Well, that is not perhaps the best kind of sustainability practice. Was that what you meant, Frida?
Yes, thank you. I think that the recycling, I think that the ability to sustain Earth society by recycling instead of throwing everything into the natural environment will be one of the greatest gifts that the space industry will give to Earth.
I really agree to 100% or 150% if that's possible. And in space, it's a necessity. It should be the same thing on space. And another thing that I didn't go into, that we need local food production on the moon. We must learn to grow vegetables and other stuff to eat that is small scale, local, and grow fast, and is rich in calories and nutrients. And that will also, I'm certain, have lots of benefits for Earth.
Well, people ask, what are they getting? What are they getting back from the money they spend? I mean, I have to tell people that we don't throw money into space.
Yeah.
That the money that is spent on space is spent on salaries that are earned here on Earth.
Yeah. And besides, you could show them, I mean, both NASA and ESA has thick books about spin-offs coming from space. You can show them just an excerpt of these books, so what we actually have from space. That also have both social and economic benefits. And that has been taking place 50 years. So I really don't agree with the thinking that why should we throw money on space development when we have so many problems on the planet. It's certainly the other way around, that you actually could use spin-offs from the space sector on this planet. So did my presentation just sort of vanish?
Yeah, I took it away because it seemed that the questions are kind of running out. I didn't mean to take you away though, but that was unintentional.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you, Niklas. I start
But
myself a bit. But you are the boss.
yeah, now, but you have 5 minutes more actually for your half hour. But if there are no further questions, we will shift to.
I have some comments, Nicholas, and
Okay.
I think Wolf is right on some of the points we discussed in our book as well. Water comes across as a vital component, and all you need to do is starve yourself for a few days to realize the importance of water. And now the only question is, and this is a question being posed here at SpaceX as well, where is the water in our proximity? And if you do not get sucked up by the astronautical engineering community, it becomes very quickly understandable that we live in a water planet. And I think we should really think about this, whether mining the moon for water is important or bringing water from the earth, given the changes in the technologies, particularly in launcher technologies.
Yeah, right. A comment there, Madhu. In many cases, they're much more economical and energy efficient to purify wastewater back to drinking water quality than desalinate ocean water.
And that is what the ISS, the International Space Station, does now, Wolf. And we are continually refining the process of how to convert gray water back to potable water.
That's great.
Okay. With that, thank you, Ulf.